Well, I grabbed a tissue while the video was playing because I'm a known crier, but I will try and get through this conversation with you, Brigitte, and keep it together at least until the end. But just by way of introduction, again, I'm Casey Swegman. I'm the Director of Public Policy at the Tahirih Justice Center, overseeing immigration policy work as well as our policy work on forced and child marriage. And I am privileged to be here on stage with Brigitte Combs, who is an advocate and a survivor and a mother and a friend, as evidenced by all the people who showed up to support her today at this event. And so I want to tell a little story about how we first got in touch, which involves Halitz, who is here, who's sharp as a tack. And basically, you know, on the day of the very first hearing in Richmond, I was in my car trying to park and thinking about my testimony and a million things, and Halitz forwarded me an email with the little red flag that makes it look like it's urgent, because she was smart enough to know that this was an email I needed to see right now, and it was an email from you. We had never met you before, and you just wrote and shared your story and said you lived 30 minutes outside of Richmond. And I thought to myself, like, this is it. This is the thing that we have been missing. This is what's going to help us get over the finish line in Virginia. I just knew it right away. And I'm just curious, what was it like for you to write that email? What were you feeling in that moment? And what is it like to get involved in the campaign at the beginning?
Well, first let me just say that I'm the one who's really honored to be here and really just blown away with everything that Tahirih is doing, that you have done, the team effort, the support. It really, not to mention, of course, my family, my daughter, my friends, everybody, but what you've done personally in supporting and enabling and helping me has been, there are just no words, and I just wanted to express that really quick. So I do remember that day that I sent the email. I happened to be on a mailing list for Tahirih, and I saw legislation happening in Virginia now to ban all child marriage and have a minimum age of 18 without exception. And this had been a dream of mine, being that I live in Virginia, for a long time. And suddenly it was there. And I remember the moment. I remember where I was. And I mean, I just completely freaked out and I was shaking. And I thought, well, I've got to do something, but I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to make sense. And so I just started sending an email. Like, I don't know what I can do, whether it's surely there's someone I can speak to. I'm in Richmond. I will go there. I will find a way. And that prompted the email. So.
And you did. And it was like all of the stars aligned. And there's this like memory that I have of getting texts from you about all the things you were doing in between all of your personal obligations, in between, you know, keeping yourself fed and rested, hopefully. But you outlined an expert level policy strategy. And I was like, Brigitte could just do my job. Like, I don't need to tell her anything. And I'm curious where you think those instincts come from. And if you want to tell us a little bit about maybe some of your best conversations that you had with legislators, because I mean, Brigitte was like looking into their personal lives, finding hooks to these issues from the communities.
They're gonna think I was a stalker.
No, but that's what we do.
I wasn't doing any stalking.
Looking into their prior bills that they introduced, looking into their vote records. I mean, that's instincts that you can't really teach people. And so would love to hear sort of where you think that drive comes from and some of your best conversations with legislators, and maybe if there were any challenges that were sort of lessons learned.
Probably, ultimately, it comes from survival. I mean, honestly, just growing up in an environment where you had to be aware, kind of hypervigilant, which is not necessarily good for the nervous system, but I mean, it helps in survival at times, you know, to be on, like, okay, what are they thinking? What are they about to do? What's happening here? Just to kind of suss out the situation. And it's probably where it originated. And then, you know, having 6 children and then having to relate to different people, different jobs, and just kind of learning along the way. and I've always been sort of I can't solve problems in my own personal life very well, but I've always been somebody who's like mechanically inclined, or like very curious, wanted to know like human body or how machines work. How does something work? How do we you have a problem? Well, how do we fix it? Well, before we can do that, we need to know how does this work? What's causing the problem? So without going into a long thing, I think it just kind of started with there. So, okay, we have a problem. Child marriage is a thing, and we've got to stop that. So we just have to figure out, well, okay, why is it a thing? What's the holdup? What's the problem? So getting to know people's, where they're coming from, so that how to reach them. So, a lot of it was just educating, just one-on-one, taking the time to explain. Explaining things does a lot, and I don't think that's anything special. It's just when you understand a situation, like one of the legislators has a background in law, and to him, well, emancipation makes a person an adult, so this is a non-issue. Why is this even a thing? This shouldn't even be here, because you're an adult, it's done. It's not child marriage. Well, let me explain to you how this works from someone who's lived it. And after working a little bit, in the end, not only was he in support of the bill, but he's like, and why did we put a 1-year delay on this? And then I had another conversation with one fellow. We engaged for quite a while. I understand where he's coming from. He's never going to change his mind. Nothing I really do about that. We'll just go on to the next one, and now we know where he stands. So,
I mean, that is incredible. Also, just courage, right? I mean, sometimes even I struggle with like, oh, this is an office I really don't want to call today, or this is a staffer I really don't want to talk to today. But I have an organization behind me and colleagues often with me, and to see your text at the end of a day saying, I called this person, this person, this person, this person.
I was going to call every single one of them.
And she did.
Every single one was going to hear from me.
She really did. I mean, I really can't say enough of how much, it was a team effort, and you are the first to say that. But I will also be the first to say that the leader of that team was you. And someday you'll internalize that. And so I think another thing that would be great to learn is just, we've had this huge success in Virginia. And I know that, there's a lot of work to be done. And sometimes it feels overwhelming. Only 12 states have banned child marriage. But curious, you have said you want to keep advocating. You want to keep doing this work. What inspires you to continue advocating to end child marriage?
That there's still a need. I've always been one to want to advocate and help others, and I'm driven to do it now more than ever. I've had a hard time finding my voice or knowing early, and now it's sort of like, well, we've opened a can of worms, so look out, because, and I wish I could say that there won't be a reason, or, I wouldn't have a job, but I'm going to keep going.
Well, I, for one, am very excited to work with you to work ourselves out of this job, and then, maybe go on a trip together somewhere. And speaking of that, I think one issue I want to touch on, especially because in every room, it's really important to acknowledge that there are probably a lot of survivors of different forms of gender-based violence in this space with us, a lot of whom are doing advocacy, either quietly in their personal life or publicly, wearing their survivorship right on their shoulder. And curious, to know, what do you do to take care of yourself? What brings you joy in your day-to-day life when you're not doing advocacy or tending to all of your many other responsibilities?
I'm still trying to learn that taking care of yourself bit. It's a really foreign concept. I'm working on that, so bear with me on that one. Otherwise, I really like to travel, indulge in a little bit of escapism. I love nature, recently, and what a way to celebrate the day that our bill was signed in Virginia was the day of the eclipse. I know everybody heard about the eclipse, but I have a little bit of a fascination with that and the sun and the moon and nature and all those sort of things. And I did take a trip out to Indiana to go see it. And so little things like that that I can, sneak in.
That was really beautiful. I remember we both went on sort of last-minute road trips to try and get a glimpse of this eclipse, and then to see the bill pass on the same day
that was pretty magical.
Yeah, very serendipitous. Yeah. And so the last question I have before we wrap up is, we have this audience in front of us, which is very rare. You have captive minds and hearts in front of you, and if you could have folks walk away from tonight.
Of an audience.
Just remembering one thing or having learned one thing, what would you like that to be?
Well, I know we're short on time, but if you'll indulge me for just a second in something that's probably really cheesy. Last week, my husband and I went to a music show. We live in Richmond, and kind of a little local group in a small theater. And as they do in some of these things, there came a song where they turn the lights down or off, and nowadays it's cell phones. Everybody does like the little cell phone, I won't say how old I am. No. It used to be lighters, didn't it? Anyway, I was just thinking as we were sitting there, how each person, wow, that's a light, that's a person, someone's shining in here. And how I was also amazed at how it lit up the whole room. Like, they turned the lights off, but it's like, wow. And I said, I told you this was going to be cheesy. So I was thinking about that, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then last night, I was looking for my eye drops in the middle of the night. And my little watch here, I put it on night mode, and it's real dim, but I'm going like this, like, where are the eye drops? And it was like the faintest bit of light, but I was able to find them. And I was thinking, again, as I'm laying there nervous, now I can't go back to sleep because I have this thing to hear. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I just got to thinking about this light, and you're going, where are we going with this? But how, just whether, like, everybody's kind of got a light, right? We're all a light. When you do little things, whether it's listening to someone, supporting someone, whether it's financial, listening to their story, advocating, no matter how small it is, or even like applying that to myself, because sometimes I feel like I wish I could do more, but even if it's just a small fraction of light, or sometimes the battery goes dead and it's just like, it ain't shining any light. But if you've got people around you that still have their light on, collectively, collectively, like that light, shining that light does indeed shine the way. It sort of, it illuminates, it's that spark. And as long as you have that light alive, it does something, no matter how small or big. And I might sound really dumb, you're going, where are you going? But I think everybody just, it's like a light, shine your light. And if you feel like you need to recharge, if we're all doing it collectively, it all adds up. And all together, we can shine the way.
I think
light
that's
the way.
Really beautiful. So I'm going to pause for claps, because it's not cheesy. And you're such an incredibly inspiring speaker. You were, for me, many times the light in this campaign. It had ups and downs. The video makes it look like we testified and we passed the bill, but many people know it was not like that.
No.
You were the light for many people. You inspired other survivors to come forward.
Well, they inspired me as well. It was very much.
To me, it will always be Brigitte's Law that we passed in Virginia. So just one more round of applause for Brigitte. And thank you so much for being here and for all the work that you did.
Thank you, and thank you for your support, each and every one of you, in whatever capacity it is. It all makes a difference. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.